What's up, players? Welcome to Sims Tennis. I've got another racket review for you. Today we will be reviewing the new Yonex Percept 97D. I got 3 of these rackets in order to see what the range of specs we can expect are and to get a peek into the quality control as well. I'll put those measurements up on screen before we get into the playtest, but first let's talk about the Percept line of rackets. So this line of rackets was formerly known as the VCore Pro line. Yonex has rebranded this line into the Percept in order to alleviate some of the confusion of having a VCore and a VCore Pro line. I personally think it makes sense, especially considering Yonex only has 3 main lines of rackets. This way each line of rackets has its own distinguished name, and overall things become a little bit less confusing for consumers. As far as the changes from the last model to this one, they are subtle but definitely noticeable. Instead of the VDM or vibration dampening mesh that they used in the previous version, Yonex is now using a technology called servo filter. This includes a thin, transparent layer of film that is placed between the layers of graphite in order to filter out some of the unwanted vibrations and improve feedback. They are also using what they call stiff racket face design, which includes more layers of graphite in the face of the racket in order to increase stability, and they're using this in combination with FlexCon and 2G NAMD Flex Force systems in the third of the racket to keep it feeling plush. The specs of the racket remain basically the same. You're still getting the 18x20 string pattern, a 320 gram unstrung weight, a 310 millimeter balance point, and a constant 21 millimeter beam. Here are the specs of the 3 rackets that I got. You can see the unstrung swing weights range from 294 to 297. The balances are grouped right around 310 millimeters, and the weights are grouped right around 319 to 321 grams. Since this is a pretty beefy racket in stock form, I chose the racket with a swing weight of 294. I strung it up with 125 gauge Wilson revolve spin, and then again later with 125 Solinco Hyper G, both at 50 pounds. Both these setups brought the swing weight up to 326. Okay, so now for the playtest. I've hit with the last version of this racket, and while I thought it offered a nice playing experience, I think that this latest version is a better all-around racket. Tennis Warehouse scores this racket as the highest of all current Yonex frames, but is it really that good? We'll circle back with some final thoughts at the end, but for now let's cover how it played shot by shot. Starting with ground strokes, this racket feels rock solid off the ground. You get a nice low to medium launch angle that lends itself to flatter shots. You can hit with a decent amount of spin as well, but there's no doubt that this racket excels when flattening the ball out. For this reason, I enjoyed the racket more on my backhand side than the forehands, as I naturally hit flatter on that wing. The stability and mass off that side allowed my backhand to really penetrate the court and be more of a weapon than it would with most other frames. Forehands were good as well, but it just required more of an adjustment on that wing. It was great when I shortened up my backswing a bit to ensure that I got to the ball on time and also really focused on hitting through the ball. But if I tried to hit heavy with bigger backswings, it could be a bit problematic at times. Moving on to returns with this racket were great. For its weight class, it's very maneuverable, and the mass and stability made it great for blocking back returns. It's also controlled in a way that inspires the confidence to swing out when you have time to set up. So on weaker serves, you can take advantage of that and put your opponent on defense right away. On volleys, the racket was great as well. It's maneuverable, and it has that classic point and shoot feel that inspires confidence. You get everything you would expect from a control-oriented frame at net with this racket, and you get the mass and stability to back it up. Okay, so serves with this racket were my favorite shot. The controlled nature of the frame really allows you to pick your spots, and the 18x20 string pattern still provides you with a surprising amount of spin when it's needed. Kick serves were getting a good amount of jump up off the court, but slice serves were my favorite, as the combination of mass and that 18x20 string pattern really allow you to get the ball to cut out while still moving through the court. All right, so who's this racket for? Overall, this is a good all-around racket for advanced all-court players who value control and hit flat. It also would really lend itself to players who like to come forward and play at net, or that like to play doubles. It was a really fun racket to play with, and I found a lot of similarities between this racket and the first 2 versions of the Gravity Pro, and that's one of my favorite all-time rackets. I'd say the Percept may be just a touch less forgiving than the Gravity, but not by much. Is this the best current Yonex frame on the market? I'd say that if you're an elite ball striker that likes to play flat and take the ball early, it might be. Otherwise, it's just a really nice solid racket that is both demanding but also really fun to use. Okay, so that's all for the review. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Also, please consider subscribing, and don't forget to embrace the grind.